I'm going to put a bit of a disclaimer at the beginning of this video. I don't normally do this, but this is a very analytical video, if you will. If you don't normally watch content like this, I'd urge you to give it a try, especially if you're one of the people who are convinced that Saitama is broken in One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows, or if you haven't heard much about the game, it's probably worth watching the video so that you don't fall into this trap of thinking the character is busted. Enjoy the video. So I was going to do this video around the same time as Gamescom, when all of the information about One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows was initially dropping, but then the Jump Force DLC happened, and everything surrounding that kind of happened all at once, and I didn't get a chance to talk about this, which is a real shame because I think it's a really interesting topic, and I was initially quite heated when all of this was going down on Twitter. Here's the short version of it. Saitama in One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows, legitimately plays like Saitama. He one-hits people. He doesn't receive any damage at all. So of course, the internet's take on this, or at least the popular opinion on the internet, is that this character is broken. And it's very possible that the game could come out and Saitama could be actually just completely broken, overpowered, and completely ruin the game. But let me give you my take, and I'm not alone on this take. I had completely written the script for this video when this initially happened. I just didn't get the time to actually make the video, and since then, Globku's done a video on this, good friend of the channel. Now, I don't want to misquote anything he said, so feel free to go watch his video. I'll leave it linked in the description, but my impression of his take is that let's wait and see. We don't know if the character's weak, we don't know if the character's busted, we have no idea right now. I'll go one step further. I think this character's gonna suck. But how does a character who does infinite damage and doesn't receive any damage possibly suck? Well, let's quickly explain how Saitama works. At the start of the match, if you have Saitama as a part of your team, he'll be making his way to the battlefield. While he's making his way to the battlefield, he still is a member of your team, meaning you only have access to 2 characters. This time period that you have to wait is 120 seconds. Now, you can directly interact with this time period. For example, if you break out of a combo using the perfect guard system, Saitama's going to get to the scene 5 seconds faster, and he'll get there 10 seconds faster if you perform a quote-unquote combo. Based on the pre-released footage, it looks like a combo just means any combo that has a special move in it, though I could be wrong about that, and it's hard to tell exactly what the combo conditions are, but again, right now I just think it's a special move. So to clarify, the benefits of putting Saitama on your team are practically winning the game after 120-ish seconds, and because you run 2 characters, you have 1 less energy bar that you have to worry about managing. Although it's possible that this actually isn't a benefit, but it will certainly benefit a new player because they won't have to worry about managing an extra resource. And to an experienced player though, this is likely a disadvantage. You also have access to potential 2 character only tech. Maybe there's some type of technique you can only utilize with 2 characters on your team that we don't know about yet. That's really all the benefits you have to running Saitama. But what are the costs you pay to gain these benefits? Well, I think the cost far outweighs the benefit. Like I explained previously, you lose a character, so you're effectively a 2-character team. And depending on what games you're used to playing, you'll have a wildly different perception of what it means to lose a character. For example, if you play Dragon Ball FighterZ, losing a character is a huge deal. If you play Jump Force, losing a character is nothing. But what does it mean for this game? Each character in this game does have separate health bars, so saying you lose a character isn't really telling the whole story. A more accurate description of what you actually lose is 33% of your health at the start of the game, or lose a stock if you want to use Smash terminology. You lose 33% of your available stamina. You lose potential healing stacking that you get from having multiple characters because your characters do heal while they're out of combat, so you won't be able to benefit from 2 characters healing at the same time. You also lose access to 3 unique special moves that you could have on your 3rd character as opposed to running Saitama. So once you've paid all of those costs, all of that health, all of that stamina, all of that utility you would get from those 3 special moves, now on top of that, you have to survive for 120 seconds-ish. And you'll be versing an opponent team with 3 characters who have all of those previous benefits we mentioned. On top of that, even if you do manage to successfully call out Saitama, you might not even win. I know what you might be thinking, how could you possibly lose with Saitama in play? Not only do you have to live for 120-ish seconds, but you also need to win shortly after that, because if you don't, your opponent's going to be able to run out the clock and they'll defeat you because they have a higher health lead. On top of that, Saitama's moves looks pretty slow. So you might be able to play keep away with him pretty effectively. And you might be wondering, Bilbsy, what if I do have the health lead already? Then I won't have to worry about getting timed out. Well, that's a good question. What if you survive for 120 seconds while already at all those disadvantages we talked about, and you manage to successfully summon Saitama while you're already winning? Well, then my question to you is, why didn't you just run a third character? If you're in that situation where you've been able to successfully live for 120 seconds with all of those downgrades to your team, why not just run the third character and end the match sooner? This sounds like a match you were already going to win. This concept is known as win more. You'll hear this term thrown around in a lot of competitive communities. You won't hear it so much in like fighting games or anything like that, because it's not really a mechanic that comes up in fighting games a lot. And the best example I know of this that would be familiar to most of the people in my audience is Exodia. That's right, the Yu-Gi-Oh card. If your opponent gave you enough time to draw the exact 5 pieces of Exodia you need, you probably could have won sooner in the match if you just used better cards to beat your opponent. But if the Yu-Gi-Oh analogy went over your head, if the conditions for the effect are so high that you're realistically going to win the game anyway, just win the game instead of going for that effect. I think Saitama is going to be in this kind of win more area. I think most of the games you win with Saitama, you are probably just going to be able to win perfectly fine with a third character that wasn't Saitama. And you're going to lose games that you should have won if you had a third character, but you just don't because you're running Saitama that never makes it to the battlefield. And those games are going to feel really disappointing because you're going to know that you would have won. We only care about summoning Saitama in a match where we were going to lose. 120 seconds is a lot of time considering the downsides of running Saitama, especially when you consider the specific resources like a health pool and not being able to regenerate health with 2 characters at the same time. And sure, you can manipulate the time with combos and perfect guards and things like that, but let's be generous and say you land 8 perfect guards, which is probably never happening, and let's say you land 3 combos. That's probably far more than you're ever going to get in a losing match, but let's just be generous and say that that's what you get. That's 70 seconds removed from the clock. Even in this highly advantageous world, you need to live for 50 seconds with 2 characters. Now that is more realistic, but if you're going to land 3 combos and you're going to get 8 perfect cards and you aren't winning that game, the third character would probably be a much better benefit to you than Saitama. Now that example isn't perfect because if you ever do land 3 combos, now you need to think about the time you're also shaving off when you're doing the actual combo because your opponent can't do anything while you're comboing them, right? So that's time you're removing from the clock. Same thing goes for perfect guard, right? Because there's an animation that needs to take place, but the specific numbers behind the example aren't necessarily important. The example is just to illustrate what if you shave off some time from the 120 seconds. And because of the way that you shave off time from the clock, your strategy is going to be the same strategy you're going to be working towards if you were just using a third character. So why not use the third character? One of the big ways that Saitama players will try to run down the clock is through perfect guards. They're going to be mashing square a lot to try and get out of those combos. That's going to be the main way to free up time. So if you're going up against a Saitama on day 1, I've already got the tech for you. I'll tell you months in advance, before the game's out, maybe even over a year in advance. I'll tell you right now how to play against a Saitama player, and it's going to make your life a million times easier on day 1. Focus on landing grabs because you cannot perfect guard out of a grab, and focus on landing special moves because again, you cannot perfect guard out of a special move. As long as you're doing those 2 things, you should have a pretty easy time dealing with Saitama because he won't be able to run down the clock. The real question is, what happens when 2 players summon Saitama? At least in theory, they shouldn't be able to kill each other. Does the game just end? I'm really curious to find out what happens. I'd imagine we won't have an answer to that until release, and I'll probably do a video on it because why not? But we'll have to wait and see on that one, I guess. There you go. There's my TED talk on why I think Saitama is not going to be too great in One Punch Man: A Hero Nobody Knows. Now, I'm willing to make a stronger statement. I think he's really bad based on the information we have right now, unless there's something crazy we don't know about Saitama and the way that he works, which is of course possible. I'm not ruling that out. I'm not saying the character is absolutely garbage. I'm saying with the information in front of us, when you look at how much damage combos do, when you look at how fast this game is probably going to be, I don't think Saitama is a realistic strategy, though he will be a lot of fun to troll people with. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, I'd appreciate a like. Oh wait, I don't do that anymore because I have a like and subscribe animation. Thanks for watching the video. My name has been Bilbsy, and I'll see you in the next one.